Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. All right, guys. Hey, welcome back. I am joined by Laura Fluke. Now, Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Casey.
So are you coming to me from the Quiet Room?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about the Quiet Room. What is it?
Well, the Quiet Room is a business that I started a couple years ago. I've been a physical therapist assistant for about 17 years. I studied craniosacral therapy for the past about 7 and have advanced my knowledge in that. And I also do somato-emotional release and dialoguing with the body as well to kind of help remove blockages, whether it's in our physical body, our mental body, or emotional body.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for a little bit. So it's really fun.
So you would be called, you're an expert in energy medicine and all things energy. And I know that you were trained with massage too. You have that under your belt as well.
Yes. I mean, I am trained and I have my license as a massage therapist, but I practice under that license, but I don't, what I do doesn't look like traditional massage. I work more intimately with the body with a very light, very soft touch. Sometimes the connection with somebody is so light that we can do it over the phone, so we can do it remotely. Right. So, I use the principles and the knowledge and the experience that I have from my physical therapy career, in addition to what I know about, things with massage, and we can refine and personalize and individualize a person's care. So finitely, it's actually, we can work with cells and, this weekend I had a class in about treating COVID.
Wow.
And, we were instructed that, even the immune system can be traumatized, right? And it's kind of an interesting thought to think of, but I mean, if the immune system has to go and take care of whatever it needs to address just during daily life, and then now here we have this, illness that comes on, this disease that comes on, then how do we help the system recover from something like that? So we can even go so deeply to just go and hold the microphage, cells, like these are the cells that go and chew up all the bad stuff, right? So, I mean, it could be much more technical than that. And it's a little even over my head. So I don't go too far into all of the finite parts of cells. But that's the neat thing about it, is that we get to treat with, just precision to remove things, or to open up things so that people can have a freer life, whatever that means to them.
I understand that you had some area where there was a block or something. I think you were out with your grandson, or you were climbing a monkey bar. So I don't know, something like that. Tell me the story about that, because that was interesting.
Just I had gotten COVID in May, and now all the symptoms go past. Now you get past all that stuff. Now I'm starting to see my family, so I'm going to watch my grandson play softball or baseball rather, and we get done and we're going to the monkey bar. So, here I am, 56 years old. Thank God I have a decent body enough to go and play with my kids. Right. And, I grabbed the monkey bars, and yes, I'm intending to go, one bar at a time. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to move this way today. And that day, my shoulder just was not having it.
It wasn't having it.
No. So I hopped off there and I'm like, oh, wow. The underside of my shoulder hurt. And I just, this has been going on since May, and here we are, September already. And, in this class, we were instructed to trade sessions with our colleagues. And
trade sessions. What do you mean trade sessions?
Trade sessions. So, as part of the training in this class this weekend, we had about a block of about a half an hour for each person. So there was myself and another person here. And so, I treated her and worked with her doing craniosacral therapy. And then it was her turn to work with me.
I understand. Okay.
So, I had shared with her, I said, just felt like my shoulder joints were just really, really compressed inside the joint. Like a way to describe that is I felt like my fascia, which is this, kind of saran wrap type tissue that covers all of our bones, or excuse me, all of our muscles, all of our tissues, everything. And that's what slides on things. And I said, I just feel like I have a small Under Armour of fascia on. And it's just pushing my shoulder, joints together. And I feel like I'm having limited range of motion. She goes, okay. So sure enough, we worked, and I'm sitting there, and we're very intentional. We're working on the shoulder. And I says, well, what about, maybe putting some presence, some awareness on the inside of the armpit, and we'll work with those muscles. So because of our knowledge, because of, massage therapy and, my physical therapy, I mean, I could even go, okay, well, I think we need to go and work on the underside of the deltoid muscle. And she's like, okay, well, let's go there. So, I mean, of course, in traditional massage, I can't massage, the interior portion of those muscles, right? So this is where we use intention and we use our training to go more deeply in there. And I could feel her under there. I'm like, oh, wow, I could sense you there. So we started working more. And as we were working, the body does what's called unwinding. So as she's holding space and just she has maybe the weight of a nickel or a quarter on my arm, and she's moving the fascia and it's softening and it's loosening, and you can feel this. My arm's starting to drift down because it's starting to soften. It's like, I'm getting more range of motion and everything. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And as my hand went back, my hand curled in such a way that I was holding the monkey bar. So I had said, so now I'm kind of picking up on going, oh, here we have this opportunity to dialogue with the body and go, okay, body, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize that you were sore when we were climbing the monkey bars. So I'm really sorry that I injured you or caused you too much stress. So then the hand opened up and started loosening, and my hand started dropping down even farther because we were softening that. Here we were working so intently through, I mean, I must have probably had 4 or 5 different massage sessions and things like that to work on the trunk in the rib cage area. But here this day, as we're sinking in more deeply, because one of the symptoms from my bout of COVID, and I kind of fell into that long haul COVID section,
Oh, I heard of that.
was having extreme joint pain. I went so far to think that, did I spark something about rheumatoid arthritis? It was that painful.
Oh my God.
And so every time I moved my arms, I had limited range of motion. My joints felt arthritic. By the time we were done, honest to God, Casey, I had such improvements in range of motion. I mean, here we are like 3 days later. I
Yeah, you're
mean,
looking like
and I can move my arm without pain. I'm not even thinking about moving my arm.
wow.
I mean, there's a tiny little bit of discomfort inside the joint, but nothing like it was earlier in the week or even last week. So, to be able to go and think that intently into the joint and then having the conversation with the muscles and the tissues, then as we got near the end of that session, my hand opened up and my hand was going, okay, now it was almost as if as we were dialoguing, we were dialoguing through that part where I grabbed the next bar and now I
Yeah.
had to let go of the one. So the hand opened. And the last way we ended the session was I said, okay, Kathy, would you mind if I just hung my hand off of your arm? Just to let my arm know that I wasn't going to do that to it again. It seems like a really elementary or basic or like that's kind of weird kind of way of doing things, right? But the arm needed to be in a position of suspension, that and she even held my hand and even held it up and let all of the tissues just drip off, like it figuratively, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Yeah.
and as my hand was aware that, oh, wow, Laura was really sorry. She didn't mean to do that to us. No, she doesn't intend to do that again.
Right.
And you know what I mean? So once the body was comforted and comfortable with the fact that it would be okay and that it was now in a safe position, that's where, you could just definitely feel this whoosh of just release. And it just was significant.
That's
So
a great story.
it came, like I said, it came through a session where we were discussing COVID symptoms. I would say that my joint pain was residual from that long haul COVID timeframe. And, here I am, we've been working on this for, 2 months with different modalities, and I couldn't get any clearance on that particular discomfort in my armpit. And with a half an hour session, cleared it probably at least 75%.
That's amazing.
Because we changed the perspective. We changed going from the obvious, which was on the rib cage and the chest, to working with the arm itself. The arm was the one that did all the work,
Hmm.
and I didn't even, I'm trained to know this stuff. And I didn't even consider the arm's involvement. And,
Right.
that was the thing, was like, oh, wow, you paid attention to me. I'm like,
Now,
so
what happened when I assumed that you tried Reiki on it, right?
yes, well, and I want to kind of define that a tiny little bit more.
Please.
Reiki is a system that's a very specific system of energy medicine that uses, we connect to, that universal energy. Anybody can call it what they want. Maybe it's just life or it's God or it's the universe or whatever, but it's this universal energy that permeates everybody. I mean, we breathe the same air that everybody does. So however you want to call it, but Reiki uses very specific symbols to help you kind of get into that space. It's like, like if we see the Christian ichthys, the fish, we
Yeah.
know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So if we see those symbols that are born from Reiki, we know what those symbols also mean, what the intention of those symbols are. And so it is a little bit different, but if that's the gateway, that if people can understand that Reiki is not some scary, weird, woojie thing, right? If that's the gateway, that you can understand that energy medicine in this soft, light touch through craniosacral therapy or many other modalities of energy medicine. It's, like I'd mentioned last week, it's almost like it's prayer, because you are intending to reach a certain space on something with a person. And it's all done with permission and with, the person, being very aware of where we're at. Now, again, last night I had another session with somebody who happened to be in a very, a terrible motorcycle accident.
Oh.
And I don't want to go and share too much about this person, right, for HIPAA and everything like that. But
Right.
when I first put my hands on his injury, the injury was vibrating, and he was wired. He was a little anxious, and so then as we sat down with the muscles, and I reminded the injury, no, you're not there. You're at a point of healing. I started doing slight range of motion on, this body part, and I didn't move it far. I didn't move. It probably was hardly even very discernible. But the fact is that I just said to the body, like going, okay, this person needs to start moving this body part. And I just was kind of intending and asking the muscles and the fascia, okay, let's try to move. And again, like I said, Casey, it was very, very incremental. Maybe be very not easily discernible to someone who was watching, but the tissues in the
In that
appendage
part
that
of the
was
body. Yeah.
injured
Yeah.
was definitely responding. It was softening. He fell asleep. He
That's good when you're
had,
in pain. I mean,
right. And he had such, the involvement in this motorcycle was such that the intestines inside of his belly were looped around themselves.
oh my God.
So he had to have emergency surgery to go and fix that. So I'm thinking, well, heck, here, if the intestines inside of his abdomen went and flipped around and got all tied up on each other, and they had to do that, then, the next, what happened to the brain while it was inside the cranium, right? So, of course, I'm holding on to his skull, and now I'm intending, like I'm just going, hey, brain, that must have been quite the ride. And the brain was like, you know about this? And I said, oh, yes, I can feel it. You can feel the density. If you've ever watched like Master Chef, right? When Gordon Ramsay goes up to a piece of meat that somebody's made and he says to the chef, he goes, well, what temperature do you want it to be? And they'll tell him, of course, it's always going to be medium rare or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you see on television that they can go up to that piece of meat and they can touch it. They
Oh
just
yeah.
touch it,
That's the best
right?
way.
And they know that the density is, oh, wow, it's too raw or too well done or
Just by
something
touching
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the essence of what we're able to do, is we can sense the density
Okay.
of certain muscles. So I can tell that, oh, no, I'm on a bone. Oh, nope, that's definitely brain tissue there.
Got it.
That's a fluid, or that's space. So sure enough, and then, I just, I closed this session with, just saying, like, I'm sorry, body, that you went through this. Thank you for supporting him as he's going through his recovery. And it took him probably 10 minutes to get off the table because he was in such a relaxed state. Now, he's the type of person that I'm not going to really dialogue with and have a lot of conversation with the body, because he is not as aware and his body educated about himself as, like in comparison to my colleague. I mean, I could tell her exactly where she knew where I was. She could tell me where she wanted to be, where she wanted me to be.
Right. Well, we
But
professionals. I mean,
right. But this other gentleman, I mean, this is where we all start. But, you can definitely tell, And when he walks away, and it was kind of fun, you can tell it's the sense of, I don't know what you do, I just know it works.
I know it
And he
works.
feels better, and
Yeah.
really that's the most important part, and I try to offer a level of education to those who wish to hear more about it, because it's always fun to learn more things and
Yeah.
more about our body. And the more you know about your body, the deeper your session, the more efficient, I guess, our sessions can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Would you mind telling me and the audience a little more about your work with it's called the CST
CST stands for craniosacral therapy.
therapy, right?
And it was discovered or founded or pioneered is the right word, I guess, by a gentleman named Dr. John Upledger. And he was an osteopath. And during a surgery, he could see that as one of his colleagues, yeah,
What's an osteopath?
an osteopath he's more of like an interactive doctor. I don't want to go and misspeak about, the practice of osteopathy, but those who are osteopaths, they're kind of like, they're back in the day, they were similar to somebody we would know more as a naturopath now. Back in the day, they could do chiropractic style adjustments. And again, I don't want to speak on that
Yeah, yeah,
too
okay.
much because I don't know too much about it, but
More holistic back then. It was more
right,
holistic.
exactly. It's a different approach, a more natural and holistic approach than what we know as an MD these days,
Got it.
right?
Thank you. Okay.
Right. So, in any case, he discovered that there was a pulse to the cerebrospinal fluid that traveled around the brain and the spinal cord. So, because of that, when that pulse, it's very fine, but as it passes by all of our, spinal nerves, right? Then that subtle rhythm translates to everywhere on our body. We can tell where what the rhythm is, what the pulse is anywhere on the body. Or if that pulse has gone still, now that's the really fun part is if that fluid goes still, we call that a still point, and there's something specific and significant going on there. And that's even called in our world, we call it the significance detector. And often we'll say, hey, what's going on for you right now? Because maybe the person's thinking about something or is processing something. And that's a space for me to kind of go, is there something we need to know? You know what I mean? And we can dialogue with the body that way. But in its basic form, the craniosacral therapy system works on, correcting, the way that the skull settles in. We have sutures or joints in our skull. We may not know that, but when we're born, that stuff, we have to have a skull that moves apart so we can go through our mom's birth canal, right?
Oh,
So as we age, then those plates of skull bones, I guess you would call them, right?
okay.
They fuse together and it kind of looks like you're interlocking your fingers. So there is a way to kind of reduce tension with that. And it's this soft touch. And, some of us, like I said, through massage therapy, we're used to going in and we're having, somebody goes and pushes on our muscles and, we know about deep tissue and we think, well, because we need some sort of effect, we need to have deep tissue massage because deeper is better. But I will tell you that the finer the tissue is, the lighter we need to be, right? So I'm not going to go and grind through a nerve. What happens if there's a nerve that's stuck on something in somebody's neck? And if we can just kind of interact with that nerve in a more soft way, and I say, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? Is there something you need? We may, just intention to put maybe coolness there to reduce inflammation. And there's so many different changes, but it's just a beautiful and elegant system. And we can also use what we call intraoral or inside of the mouth techniques to go and reduce tension in the jaw. I can't tell you how many times we've changed migraines with intraoral work. So with mouth work, we've changed, I have had, a lot of mouth work done because of neck problems that I have, shoulder problems. If your tongue is too tight, it pulls up the shoulder girdle, the whole shoulders. We can start feeling that tension. We reduce the tension in the underside of the tongue. That reduces tension in, around the shoulder girdle here, and it drops. And, wow, you could have different range of motion, less pain. Again, like I said, migraines, CST, it can't cure everything, it can't fix everything, it can't do everything, right? Nothing can.
Right.
But there has been so many things that I have been able to use craniosacral for that, it's like the first time for me quite often. Each session for each person is different from time to time, and what that person needs. And sometimes a person comes in thinking that they might need something, but we realize, like I said to you earlier, I said we thought maybe we were supposed to be working on my rib cage and my chest, right?
Right.
But no, my body said, no, please work on my arm today.
Yeah.
And it made all the difference. So
Yeah. How about can it help with CRT?
CRT.
Yeah, when you get concussions and
Yes, yes. So yes. So one of the offices that I used to work in, we specialized in with craniosacral therapy and concussions. Of course, there's protocols that you would need to go through, what maybe you would say, more traditional or functional medicine.
mm,
But yes, concussions, it's beautiful to go and help, reduce symptoms. I don't want to be too clinical or too technical on this because I don't know exactly how to describe that in this
right.
kind of forum.
I
But
understand.
yes, concussions is something that it's a beautiful modality for. There are some of my colleagues that work with kids that are autistic, or folks that are autistic, and it sometimes can reach into their world in a different way.
Yeah.
And we can find different ways to connect to those people.
How about seizures?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
How about seizures?
There are some contraindications. So like the seizures, I would have to confirm with that.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
there's certain contraindications, and I know like active brain bleeds, I know we are not supposed to be working with,
Oh,
of course, right? Um, and then there are some other like brain injury type things that we're not able to work with, but for the most part, we have free clearance to really work with the entire body,
gotcha. Yeah.
within, a very short list of
Yeah.
contraindications.
Because I was just trying to get it, like, who's the perfect candidate to work with you, you know?
Really, I would say almost anybody. And I don't want to be so broad to say that, but there's outside of those places where those contraindications are with brain injuries and
Yeah.
active
Yeah.
brain bleeds and things like that. And you know, we can work with everything. It's working with the body, the mind, the spirit, the energy field, everything. So, and then my advanced studies have kind of even uh offered an opportunity for that stuff to blossom even more, because we can go even more deeply because of the things that I've learned outside of in addition to craniosacral therapy.
I see.
So,
I see. So what do you have coming up? I mean, what do you want the audience to know? Like, what are you working on? Because we're getting near the end here. I
mm,
want to make sure that anything that you're working on, anything you want to tell the audience, I want to give you the floor here.
well, I would love to connect with people who have questions or anything like that. If you have questions about, how does craniosacral work? What can craniosacral do? I would love for you to reach out through, the website at thequietroom808.com. There is a way to mail through that. And but yeah, start. I would just offer, there's some modalities, or there's some injuries that we all have that we've tried going to Western medicine for, and we're not getting resolution, and we're frustrated and we can't figure out something. And whether you're local to me or you find somebody to do craniosacral in your area or whatever, but really, there's just amazing things that craniosacral can do. There's beautiful things that I've been trained to do work remotely, so it doesn't always mean that you need to be in the presence of a craniosacral therapist. And some beautiful stuff. So
That's great. So tell people, please, how to get a hold of you.
So again, like I said, thequietroom808.com is my website. And we're kind of doing some updates to that and kind of refreshing that a little bit. So I would offer to check back every once in a while. My phone number is 586-322-9727. And you can always reach out by phone or by text. And I would love to connect with people and answer any questions, because if you're looking for something to fix an issue you've had and you've not been able to find the thing, I really offer anyone to really try craniosacral therapy, because it opens a world to your being and your body that you never knew existed. It's
Wow.
just amazing.
It
So
sounds amazing. And all the people that wrote in, I will get to you guys next time. But Laura Fluke, everybody, Make sure you check out thequietroom808.com. Laura, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for all
Thank
the
you,
great
Casey.
information. Great guest. And can't wait to hear what you have to say next. So have a
All right.
great day and
Take
thank
care.
you very much.
Be
Bye,
well.
Laura.
Bye-bye now.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.